The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Sullivan's diner, casting golden streaks across the worn leather booths that had welcomed countless families over the decades. Grace Mitchell adjusted her black apron over her crisp white blouse. Her blonde hair pulled back in a neat bun as she prepared for another day of serving coffee and comfort to the people of Millbrook. At 32, Grace had worked at Sullivan's for nearly 8 years. She knew the regulars by name, remembered how they liked their eggs, and always had a kind word ready. The diner wasn't just her workplace. It was her sanctuary, a place where she could channel her nurturing spirit, even though life hadn't blessed her with children of her own. The bell above the door chimed softly as Thomas Hartwell entered with his 5-year-old daughter, Emma. Thomas, a successful CEO in his late 30s, carried himself with the quiet dignity of a man who had learned to be both father and mother to his precious little girl. His dark suit spoke of boardroom meetings, but his gentle eyes revealed a heart that beat entirely for the curly-haired child at his side. Emma's pink jacket was slightly wrinkled, her small backpack hanging from one shoulder. Her father's attempts at styling her light brown curls were endearing, if not entirely successful. But her smile, her smile could light up the darkest corner of any room. Grace approached their usual booth with a warmth that had become as familiar as morning coffee. "Good morning?" "You too," she said softly, her voice carrying the kind of gentleness that made people feel instantly at ease. "The usual breakfast today?" Thomas nodded gratefully. These morning visits had become their ritual before school, a quiet moment of normalcy in their carefully structured life. Emma bounced slightly in her seat, her eyes following Grace with the kind of innocent adoration that only children possess. "Miss Grace," Emma said, her small voice carrying a note of seriousness that seemed too mature for her years. "Can I ask you something?" Grace knelt down beside the booth, bringing herself to Emma's eye level. This simple gesture spoke volumes about her character. She understood that children deserved to be heard, not merely seen. "Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" Emma glanced at her father, then back at Grace. Her small hands fidgeted with the edge of her pink jacket as she gathered courage for words that would change everything. "Can you be my mommy?" The question hung in the air like morning mist, beautiful and fragile. Thomas froze, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. Not from embarrassment, but from the profound recognition of his daughter's longing. A longing he'd tried so hard to fill but knew, in his heart, required something he couldn't provide alone. Grace felt her breath catch. She'd wondered about this precious child, about the absence she'd sensed but never questioned. Children, she knew, see the world with remarkable clarity. They recognize kindness without pretense, love without conditions. "Oh, Emma," Grace whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She reached out to gently touch the little girl's hand. "That's the most beautiful question anyone has ever asked me." Thomas found his voice, though it trembled slightly. "Emma, honey, Miss Grace has her own life." But Grace held up a gentle hand. She understood what Emma saw in her. The patient way she listened, the extra whipped cream on hot chocolate, the stories she'd tell while Emma colored on napkins. The child had been searching for maternal love and had found it in unexpected places. "You know what, Emma?" Grace said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Being a mommy isn't just about living in the same house. It's about caring and loving and being there when someone needs you. And I care about you so very much." Emma's face brightened with pure joy. "Really? So you'll be my mommy?" Grace looked at Thomas, seeing not judgment but hope in his tired eyes. This single father had been carrying an enormous burden, trying to be everything to his daughter while building a life that honored his late wife's memory. "If your daddy says it's okay," Grace said carefully, "maybe I could be like a very special friend. Someone who loves you like family." Thomas felt something shift inside his chest. For 3 years, since his wife Sarah's passing, he'd been so focused on protecting Emma from more loss that he'd perhaps protected her from love as well. But love, real love, didn't diminish when shared. It multiplied, I think, Thomas said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. That would be the most wonderful thing in the world. And so began a love story that wasn't about romance, but about something far more profound. The recognition that families are built not just by blood, but by choice, by kindness, by the courage to open our hearts to unexpected grace. Grace continued working at Sullivan's Diner, but now her shifts included daily visits from a little girl who called her "My Miss Grace Mommy," and from a man who had learned that sometimes the greatest strength lies in accepting help, in allowing others to love what we love most. The diner's regular customers watched this gentle transformation with knowing smiles. They understood what the younger generation sometimes forgets, that love comes in many forms, and the most beautiful families are often the ones we choose to create through simple acts of daily kindness. Emma's question that morning had been answered not with promises or grand gestures, but with presence, with consistency, with the quiet assurance that love, once given freely, never truly ends. In the golden light of Sullivan's Diner, three hearts had found their way home.